Joe Micheletti, who is preparing for tonight's game against the Nashville Predators. Welcome to the show, Joe. How's your season started?
John, great to be with you and Dave. The season has actually started pretty well. New coach with Peter Laviolette in, trying to put in new systems, trying to get this team to play a little bit different. They had a really tough camp, I would say, difficult, physical. And I would say that the camp was, it looked like they were trying to learn this new system. They weren't all that good at it. They were 0-6. And but once their first game was good, second game was okay, and then they had a third game win over Arizona, which is a team that's certainly improved. So I would say that the overall attitude of everyone is real good. I would say that that they still have room to improve, but everyone seems to be excited about where they're going.
Well, they're not as good as the broadcast team. Did I see that your play-by-play partner, Sam Rosen, just celebrated a 40-year anniversary?
Yeah, Dave, this is Sam's 40th year as the TV voice of the Rangers, which is remarkable. And we talk about this a lot amongst our crew, that the energy level and his passion for what he does and his love for the game and his love for the Rangers and the sport is pretty remarkable. He just never seems to have a day where he doesn't feel like this is the most important thing to him that he's doing. And so it's been great to watch and to work with him. We've been together now. This is 18 years for us, and Sam just keeps on going. It's pretty remarkable.
You and I made it 1 year.
That was my fault. I'm sorry. Or maybe it was John's fault.
I was going to say 40 years. We were lucky to get to 40 games. So, and for anybody that's listening, this trio of people ended up being the television entity that was with the Minnesota North Stars for a single season, and not long after, the team ended up in Dallas. So,
right,
I'm not sure we're going to take blame or credit.
I can't believe Norm Green didn't love us. Like, what is not to love?
Well, we were a year too late. I mean, we inherited a Stanley Cup champion and drove it into the ground, apparently.
Right?
Well, to be fair, Dave, they made the playoffs.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, but then your cameras, John, where you placed those cameras, you blew everything. It was your reason they lost to Detroit after winning those first two games on the road. But
only one game did the cameras get in the way of progress, Joe, and that was Game 6.
It's really going to be difficult to get this discussion back on the rails, but John, your best attempt. Go ahead.
It's been documented before, so it's easy to talk about now. There was a long time I didn't talk about it, and Joe kept asking me to talk about it, and I refused. But we were in the midst of a playoff series with the Minnesota North Stars and the Detroit Red Wings. The North Stars were up at one point 3-1. They won both games in Detroit, as I recall. The owner of the club was far more aggressive about making sure we had home games as opposed to winning games, so that he wanted a long series, and he didn't necessarily want a quick series. So he was much happier when Detroit won in one of the two games at the Met Center than had the North Stars won the series. So we get to Game 6 in Bloomington, Minnesota, and our friends from Detroit make it a great game. It's an unbelievable game, back and forth, goes to overtime, and Sergei Fedorov comes across the line, shoots the puck, and the Red Wing bench starts to celebrate, but play continues. It continues for 2 minutes and 14 seconds. And the most definitive answer of whether the puck was in the net is an overhead camera. That this is the only building in the National Hockey League at that point, the only building in the NHL that has overhead cameras above the net. We had installed them as the season started to be different and try something new. And this was also the first year of video review. And so the whistle, the play stopped. They rewound the old VHS tape, checked the overhead camera, and yes, the puck had gone in the net. The Red Wings won Game 6. They went on to win Game 7, and the North Stars were out of the series. After Game 6, we're walking through the basement of the Met Center, and Jimmy Lights, who was an executive vice president of the club for Detroit at that time, walks around the corner and says, "Goal scored by Sergei Fedorov, assisted by John Shannon," in front of the whole North Star brass. So I did kind of get tarred with a brush that night.
You got fired how many days later? Was it 2 or 3 or wasn't?
We got fired the day after Game 7. Yeah, we got fired the day after Game 7. So I did. Yeah. Well, that's I was living there. You two guys were in absentia.
Right.
That was the famous line. I'm sitting at home. The phone rings. And I answer the phone and I get told, "Please come to the office." And so I told my wife, Mickey, to come to the office. And she said, "Better take boxes."
And then I remember back in those days, Dave got fired through the newspaper, Sid Hartman's
That's
call.
right. That's
and
right.
Back in those early 90s, I was living in St. Louis. My sister sent me the article, of which I then texted. No, I didn't text it.
You faxed it.
I faxed it to Dave in Vancouver to let him know that he was fired. And then, I lasted another month or so. But
I asked for this discussion to turn serious, and John's way of doing that was to publicly make himself a legend in terms of video.
Hold on. Hold on here. Hold on. Yesterday on the show, Joe, Dave proceeded to tell us that he's the first voice of the Buffalo Sabres. So now this is a quid pro quo today, I think. And that's all it is.
I didn't get an assist on a game-winning goal by being the voice of the Buffalo Sabres. But the going back to John's story that he needed to tell
Yes.
about the Fedorov goal, the strangest part of it for me was we're hearing John with all sorts of instructions and directions, and as the games are going on. And that was for those 2 minutes and 14 seconds after John realizes from his camera that the puck is in the net. I'm doing the play-by-play of a game that John is telling me is over.
Yeah, that's right.
He's saying when the whistle blows, Detroit is going to be declared the winner, and you guys are going to have to describe something that has never happened before in the NHL, and that is a game that has ended because of video review. That was the first time. I mean, never mind the overhead camera being the reason for the proof that we had on our telecast, but a game had never ended like that before, had it, John? No, it was the first time. Yeah. That was the first time with with playoff overtime, but it was amazing though that continue to do the play-by-play, keep talking, because if the whistle doesn't blow, we're still playing the game.
Well, maybe this is all Dave's fault. Maybe it's not your fault, John.
Well,
those 2 minutes and 14 seconds, he blew it.
I should have shut up. I should have taken the microphone. Game's over, folks. Joel will be told how to explain it, or he'll know. And I'm out of here. I don't get paid for for 2 minutes that don't get into the game. Anyway, we're talking history. What's going on in the NHL these days?
Yeah, that's right, Joey. So the big talk for the first 9 days of the season has been Connor Bedard. He did not get to New York. He will not be in New York for a while, I don't believe. But what is your sense of what number 98 has done for the Blackhawks and for the NHL?
I think it's been remarkable. I really do. A kid that is this young, and we've talked about this before, how these kids now, by the time they get to the NHL, that they're already pretty well schooled because of what they've done worldwide, and especially your top players being in front of a camera and learning how to deal with media and everything that comes with that. But it's still pretty remarkable to me that a kid like this steps in and can be and do what he's doing both on and off the ice, and the pressure that he has to not only perform and the pressure he puts on himself. And of course, there's not a lot, no one really expects Chicago to make the playoffs, but he has dealt with that pressure both on the ice and off the ice. I mean, the media requests for him and everything he's asked to do, and he hasn't really, backed down from much of it. And he'll mature more from the standpoint of the way he speaks. But I just think that what he's brought to Chicago, what he's brought to the league, and how he's represented himself and his family has been pretty remarkable.